Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Gilda Hilaire, and I'm the Senior Product Marketing Manager at Salesforce. Today, we're doing a deep dive into Path Optimizer, presented by Rob Everett and Bill Jennings. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them in the question box in your GoToWebinar control panel. We will try to address these during the presentation and at the end. We will also send the recording to the webinar and link to any of the documents that are highlighted on this call tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that email. Now, without further ado, we will turn the time over to Rob and Bill.
Thanks, Gilda, and thank you for organizing this event. We're pretty excited to introduce the Path Optimizer feature in Journey Builder. It's a pretty big step forward for testing in Journey Builder, but I'd like to actually take a look at this from the lens of experimentation and how you can get a return on your investment by thinking through experimentation and using Journey Builder for that. So, of course, the first thing we always have to say is, sorry, Bill, next, there we go, is that we're going to make some forward-looking statements today. In product, we like to talk about the future, so we advise you to always remember that to make your purchase decisions based on what's available in the product today and not what's available in the future. But we think you know that. So my name is Rob Everett. I'm a senior product manager here at Salesforce, been here nearly 5 years and been working on Journey Builder. We ran the team that implemented Path Optimizer, and we've been working on this for quite a bit of time. And we also have Bill Jennings. Bill is Director of Product Management, has also been working on Path Optimizer since the very beginning of the concept of the feature, and actually is now in charge of the roadmap. So we'll be talking a little bit about that later in the presentation. And we also have Matt Hager, who is the Director of Software Engineering for all the Journey Builder teams. So for any technical questions we get that we may need a little help from an engineer, Matt's here. So let's go through our agenda really quick and just talk about the topics that we're gonna look over. So as I mentioned before, we're really gonna dive into the theme of experimentation. Then we're going to get into the details of how to pick a winner. In other words, how you configure the Path Optimizer activity and the two different manners of picking a winner. Then we're going to talk about some complex use cases. So we know that there are a lot of technical marketers on the call today, and we know that you're the ones that really help dive in and get into the data and help your marketing teams get into those complex use cases, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And then, of course, probably the most important part is opening that up to Q&A and getting some good questions out and answering those for you. So first, experimentation. I'm going to start off by speaking a little bit about this as a theme, which goes really beyond the traditional A/B or even multivariate testing and into a culture of leading through curiosity and continuous testing. All right, what does experimentation really mean? Well, we're all familiar with A/B testing, but do you ever consider the fact that it might also stand for always be testing? Because we as humans, not just marketers, tend to be biased against failures. In other words, outcomes we don't expect. In a study recently done on a major travel site that has democratized experimentation among their marketing staff, only 10% of their experiments generated positive results, meaning that the B in the A/B test, or the modification that attempts to improve something, failed in 90% of their tests. That's okay, because failure can be defined by either seeing the opposite of what we expected, or maybe it's the results were not statistically significant. But we need to trust that failure is okay, and that's what helps us learn. So what does that all mean? Well, it means that you run the risk when you don't experiment. We need to be asking really hard questions all the time. Are we seeing the ROI we want? What if we should be saying something different? Or should we try saying it at a different cadence? Or maybe we need to offer something different than we are today that would be more relevant to our customers. What if we tried out send time optimization, or maybe a different channel to increase engagement? It may be uncomfortable for you to question the status quo at first, but this is really what leads to better hypotheses and the more results that we can trust. So how do we find out which of our hypotheses are true and which are false? Get the next, there we go, thanks. We all know that good marketers bring a strong intuitive approach of how to engage with our customers. So hypotheses are not hard to generate. But to manage up the chain, you always have to have data to back it up. Sometimes we even find that our intuition isn't right 100% of the time, or we learn that time can change how effective a campaign is. But to test those hypotheses, you need to run experiments within your journeys in Journey Builder. And Path Optimizer gives you demonstrable analytical insights into your data by not only showing you real-time stats while the test is running, but once the winner is chosen, you can reference a snapshot in time of the data from the test and ongoing data after the test. We show you the number of contacts that have flowed through during and after the test, and the engagement metrics during and after the test. In this example, you can see on the screen, it's clear that the content is no longer as relevant as it was when it won the test, and now a new test is needed. Can you do one more little quick click for me there, Bill? You can see that from the screen here in the test summary data, that's our snapshot of what happened during the test. And this path 2 won with a 52.8% open rate. But if you look at the top section there, the post-test performance, my open rate has now dropped to 19.7%. Something has changed, something's not relevant anymore. Next slide. So what are the options for configuring Path Optimizer and Journey Builder, and what's behind all the data that we show? Well, the configuration is fairly straightforward. We have pretty much 4 options that you need to select. First off is the winner type. You're going to select whether you're going to be choosing the winner based on email engagement, or if you're going to be choosing the winner manually. And I'll get a little bit into that, what all those mean in the next section. Engagement period is the amount of time that we're going to wait before we calculate the winner. In other words, you want to say how long after somebody has gotten through at least the longest path in your Path Optimizer test before you actually choose the winner. Then we have the ability to select splits. So you can think of this a lot of as the random split in Journey Builder today, where we're able to create between 2 and 10 paths, and you can vary the percentages. It doesn't have to be an even distribution. You can vary those distributions, but it is a random distribution, just like it is with random split today. So in other words, it's like a coin toss when a contact hits that split and says, which path am I going down? And lastly, we have the holdback option. The holdback option is something where we can hold back a percentage of the population that has hit the test to say, I want to wait until the winner is chosen before I send X% down the winning path. So in this example, if you have 1 million contacts that you're going to send through your test, you are saying hold back 800,000 until we have the winning path, send 200,000 through the test, and those 200,000 will be broken down across 3 paths. And you're going to split those a third, a third, a third across those 3 paths. And then once the winner has been chosen, we'll release the other 800,000 down the winning path. And then beyond that, what data is behind it? Well, it's the same email engagement data that we use for other activities, including engagement split. But it also includes all emails across a path. So in Path Optimizer, you can have more than one email activity on a path. And of course, you can even have other types of activities on paths. So in this case, you're combining the engagement rates of all of the emails on a path and then calculating what is the highest percentage of either opens or clicks or the lowest percentage of unsubscribes when we're calculating that winner. So we're just looking across all those emails, and that's why we don't allow the ability to select an individual link in an individual email on the click metric. So we've had that question come in, why can't I select a link from an email to pick my winner? Well, that's because you could have 3 or 4 emails across there, and we need to collect all clicks because we're looking at the highest click rate across the path. Okay, next. So next we're going to dive into how do we pick the winners. The first type of winner I mentioned, again, email engagement is my winner selection. You can think of this as traditional ABN or multivariate testing for email. You're looking at the email engagement metrics that I talked about, opens, clicks, and unsubscribes. You have this engagement period, which is the amount of time that we wait to pick the winner after the contact completes the longest path. And again, to clarify a little bit what that means, the longest path could include wait activities between emails. So let's say that your engagement period is 3 days, and then you have a wait period on your first path of 1 day, and you have a wait period on your second path of 2 days, because you're trying to test the cadence of your messages and say, what is the best engagement that I'm going to get based on how long I put in between messages. So your total test time is the addition then of the engagement period of 3 days, and your longest path, which is 2 days. So your total test time is actually 5 days. But the engagement period itself can be selected in hours or days, and you have a maximum of that engagement period of 99 days. Now, of course, if you have additional weights in there, your overall test time can be longer than 99 days, but the engagement period can't be longer than that. And then with automatic path selection, again, this is just picking the highest percent, and it's the highest percent, so it could be 20.1% versus 20% of clicks and opens, or the lowest percent of unsubscribes. And then you can also override that at any time. Let's say you look at that analytics screen I was showing you a minute ago, and you actually see that path 1 is just clearly winning, and you still have 2 days left with your test, but you actually understand that this path 1 is clearly the winner, and it's running away. So you can actually select path 1 before the test is actually over. So that really covers our email engagement winner selection. The next is manual. So we think the real power of Path Optimizer is unlocked when you use the manual selection option, because it allows you to monitor any data you want inside or outside Marketing Cloud and pick the winner based on an external analysis of that data. Let me give you a few examples here. You could run a test with mobile push content variations and measure which message leads to more in-app purchase conversions. Maybe you want to send different SMS messages to see which one drives higher keyword responses. Maybe you're looking for donations and somebody to keyword back donation. You might want to pull in promo codes from your custom point of sale system and pick which code is more frequently used by customers. Or maybe you want to push data back to the Sales Cloud so that you can run reports to determine the winner based on some milestone like lead conversions. Really, we have unlimited options when you use the manual selection process. I've had a couple of questions come in. Hey, it seems like Path Optimizer is just A/B testing. And like I mentioned, that is essentially what the email engagement option winner is. But the manual selection winner opens up the doors for a lot more than what you might consider multivariate testing into really sophisticated path optimization. So you can do omni-channel, you can put in custom activities, and then with the manual selection option, you pick the winner at any time that you find that winner is significant. So you can test, maybe you have a lot of different algorithms running in the background, and then you want to be able to find out what is statistically significant. Then you wait and you choose that winner manually when you find those results. I want to point out that email is not chosen when there is a statistically significant result yet, and Bill's going to talk a little bit about roadmap in the future, where that is one of the possible additions there, but it is based on the highest percentage, whereas manual, you can do anything you want and make sure that those results are significant. All right, so let's dive into some actual complex use cases where you can potentially measure milestones or other things. So let's say that you have a particularly complex algorithm for selecting your winner that involves conversions over a certain dollar amount, all of which is calculated and stored outside of Marketing Cloud. And I'm going to show you this visually in a minute, but you can use a custom activity to send relevant data about your contacts from each path in your test over to Tableau, because that's where you pull all your data in and run your complex queries to find your winner. But from there, you can track conversion and order totals from your e-commerce website, also synced to Tableau, and calculate the winner once your data set reaches statistical significance. So let's take a quick look at what that might look like on the canvas. So as you can see, we've actually got some push notifications here, separated by a weight. And at the end of that, we're going to send the data over to Tableau to say they went down the first path and they got these push variations. And you can see that then we've added that, like, the custom activity is the update Tableau. So at the end of each path, we're saying, okay, Tableau, here's that data. Now you can go over to Tableau, you can run all these queries that you want, and you can come back in here to Path Optimizer, and you can click the activity, open it up, and say, pick my winner once you've collated all of that data. You can also envision that update Tableau activity instead is just our native update contact activity in Journey Builder. So therefore, you could update a data extension if you wanted to, and then you could use Automation Studio to query those results and say, okay, based on what I've written here to my data extension, I know that this person went down path 2. I'm looking now at my push engagement opens, and I can see that I got more push engagement opens from the people who went down path 2. I can go pick path 2 as my winner. All right, so our next situation is calculating a winner in Sales Cloud. So let's say you have an existing lead conversion report in Sales Cloud that you'd like to use for selecting your winner in your policy renewals journey. So you can use Sales and Service Cloud activity to create a new campaign member status record as soon as a contact hits a path in the test for tracking purposes. And from there, you actually want to vary whether the contact gets 2 separate emails separated by a wait, or instead they first get a phone call from their agent to reach out and try to personally encourage that person to renew their policy, and then followed by a wait and a follow-up email. To trigger that phone call, you'd use a Salesforce task activity to hit the queue of your service agent to make an outbound phone call that day. Now you actually know in Sales Cloud which contacts went down which path, and you can then run that lead conversion report to find out which path led to more policy renewals and manually come back into Journey Builder and select your winner. So let's take a look really quick at what that looks like. So as you can see here, we've just got 2 paths. We have our create campaign member status activity at the front of each one, because we want to immediately notify Sales Cloud that that person has processed down one of those paths, and that the status would be different based on which path they went down. And then we immediately then send a task on path 2, or we immediately send an email on path 1. And so then we can come back and see if that personal touch from our service agent actually was able to drive more renewals than just our follow-up emails. So this is kind of the extent of where we are with our complex use cases. I want to pay attention. I know there have been some questions coming in, so I want to make sure that we address those before we talk about roadmap. I can't identify a specific link optimized to look at. Links should not count towards engagement, for instance, unsubscribe. So I believe that the question is, if you can't identify a specific link in Path Optimizer in order to look at for a click engagement metric, can we identify links that should not count towards engagement like unsubscribe? I believe that we are using the same logic that the engagement split looks at. And I thought that also already did not include unsubscribe, but I will have to follow up and get that answer. I believe that the answer there is that we do not include unsubscribe as a link click, but we'll get an answer for you. Hi, is it possible to test 2 different sending hours in a path? Yeah, so you could actually do in our native wait activities. You can you can extend a wait by duration activity to a specific time. So you can also specify waits by hours. So if you wanted to hold in path 1 in this example, maybe you wanted to hold someone for 1 hour, and in path 2 you wanted to hold someone for 3 hours. You can absolutely do that in our wait activities. Or if you wanted to extend that wait time to be wait until 9 a.m. on path 1 and wait until 11 a.m. on path 2, you could actually define that as well. So the next question, what statistical significance or confidence interval is being applied to the definition of winner? As I mentioned, statistical significance is not a part of this yet. Bill's going to talk a little bit about that roadmap, and that definitely is something that we have heard and that we're looking at for the future.
And
what
hey, Rob,
just
to add a bit onto your answer there, I think that the thing to know is, since we're not using statistical significance, we are applying like a date range. So in the configuration, when you choose email engagement, you pick a time frame to monitor. So if you pick 3 days, though statistical significance may have been reached in 2 days, the test will continue to wait until 3 days unless you go in and then override manually.
Exactly. What happens if a path is longer than 99 days? As I mentioned, the total test time is different than the engagement period. So the engagement period itself is capped at 99 days, but you can actually have 3 months, another 90 days of waits on a path. So your total test time is the sum of the two. So that may mean that 90 days plus 99 days, 189 days is your total test time. So what I mean by total test time is the clock starts counting the moment the first contact hits the Path Optimizer activity. And by the way, you can have a Path Optimizer activity buried further down the line in a journey. It doesn't have to be the first step. We've done that for the simplicity of these screenshots. But if we wanted to show like what is, what is something down the road, then we could actually, it's the time that first person hits that activity, that's when the clock starts counting. So from 189 days from there is when we would pick the winner. Can we see both open and click metrics for a path? Yes. And Bill, if you could back up really quick to slide number 9. The metrics are always displayed for all of the open, click, and unsubscribe. So you see the different colored bar graph there. Open rate is blue, click rate is purple, unsubscribe rate is orange. No matter which option you select as your winner type, you will always be able to see all 3 metrics for email in there. And actually, in this example, this was done in a test environment, so we didn't have any click or unsubscribe data post-test performance. But you can imagine that those percentages will also show there too. It's not just open rate that would show just because open rate was your winner. Do you have to have a Salesforce Tableau license or your own license? I don't know the answer about Tableau licenses. We'll have to probably get back to you. I presume that is true. Is the update Tableau?
And sorry, Robin, just also like our example was just like a hypothetical custom activity sending data to Tableau. So
exactly.
You could imagine it doesn't have to be Tableau. It could be any other like BI tool that you might use in your business. And you could use any custom activity of your own creation to send the data to your BI tool, which is where a lot of folks, before the invention of this feature, were already conducting their basically path tests using random split.
Exactly. Once a path is declared a winner, do I need to create a new version of the journey to retest, or can I modify the paths and begin a retest? So to do a retest, you would need to create a new version. So when the winner is selected, that actually becomes the winning path. And we're gonna probably dive in. There are a couple questions about how does this or that look. So we'll probably dive into that. I want to get through a few more questions and then the roadmap before we actually start looking at that. Yep, and one of the questions is because you walk us through how we implement a typical subject line A/B test. I think we could easily kind of show you what that would look like when we do that. Does it work with dynamic links with AmpScript? No, those dynamic links and AmpScript links are not supported in Journey Builder. That is something that has been on our roadmap for a while. We understand the need for that. And entry source, you can actually use any entry source with Path Optimizer. However, I think I skipped over one restriction on the holdback option. So when I discussed the fact that you can hold back a particular percent of the audience, that is only available if you use the data extension entry source with a run once schedule. The reason for that is because we queue up those records and we say, okay, you've got 80%, and in my example that I used, it was like 800,000 people. We can't kind of queue those people ongoing and ongoing forever. Like, let's say your test is 3 months, that would end up with so large of a potential queue that it would really be too big. So we restricted the holdback option to be only available with a run once schedule for DE, but you can use any entry source that you want. So, and I do want to be clear, I guess there's a little question here about the manual winner and how it works. It's exactly the same as the automatic winner type with email engagement. So in the end, you still get the winner immediately chosen and you immediately shut off losing paths. So whether it's automatic or whether it's winner, it doesn't matter. When the signal gets sent to Journey Builder to say path 2 is my winner, path 1 and any other paths you might have defined are shut off. No additional context will flow down those paths. Okay. Sorry, there's a lot of questions coming in. Trying to pick the best ones. Maybe now is a good time to jump into roadmap, and then we can actually look at some of these other things that we can actually show in the system. So I'll turn it over to Bill here.
Thanks, Rob. Yeah, in general, this is a little bit unique for us, which is, again, this has been a substantial investment. This is really kind of a new way to create journeys with this experimentation mindset. So our main goal right now is to kind of just watch our customers and work with you guys directly and evaluate how things are being used. For example, how popular is manual selection versus email engagement selection? Those sort of things will help us determine how we proceed with the roadmap. But we do have a lot of good ideas that we wanted to kind of show you here, and we don't have them like scheduled for a specific release or anything like that, like you maybe would normally see in like a roadmap presentation from us. But we wanted to show you kind of some of our ideas that we've been working on and some stuff we've already heard from our kind of early adopters of the feature, and to let you know we most certainly are interested in the continual investment of this and related features. So the things we're considering so far kind of are just these general groups here, but expanding winner evaluation. So far, you've seen email engagement and you've seen manual selection. We are looking to expand out to, of course, other channels. So you can choose engagement based on, or you can choose the winner based on engagement, for example, like a push or SMS. Also, we are looking to change what we've talked about earlier, is to change the time frame that we evaluate the test based on statistical significance instead of like a user inputted time frame such as 3 days. Also, we've heard from customers that looking into control groups is of interest. So we don't have like the specific solution designed or in mind. So over the coming months, you might see our product team reaching out to show like conceptual ideas, and as we start to work on these more sophisticated ideas such as control groups. And also, we've done a little bit of work and user research on selecting the winner based on basically like a data expression. So much as you see in like the entry source where you can set filters, we would allow you to set specific criteria to choose the winner, much as you might be doing in your external BI tools today. So that would bring a lot more of the features and functionality that you might be doing for your overall experimentation into the Marketing Cloud. And that's kind of just a longer term goal, is to really make Marketing Cloud the place for doing experimentation kind of all up. That's kind of the basic stuff that we're looking at, kind of some large buckets of feature enhancements here.
Yep. So if we want to get into the environment, we can probably do a couple of other questions. While you're doing that, though, I did want to address one recurring question that we have gotten a few times is, can you use this for one-time test, or is it only ongoing? You can definitely use it for one-time or ongoing. If you use the run once schedule, you can always just run a single campaign like you would do in an email A/B test in Email Studio today. So that is definitely a possibility, but you can also use it for ongoing, any entry source. So let's say you just want to leave the test running for a while, you can use API event and just fire people in whenever you want. You can use Salesforce entry events, etc. And can you apply a throttle to the holdback or winner? You cannot. It just waits until the winner is selected, and then it releases those people into the test. And another question that I get quite often is, why are we not able to use an engagement split inside or outside the Path Optimizer? It's actually was built that way to not include any splits. And the reason for that is because of the way this is a unique activity in Journey Builder, where you can see that everything joins back on it by itself. So you might be aware of how our joins work today, and you see the lines and kind of cross over each other. We designed this to be a little bit cleaner, and we wanted this to be able to join back without a lot of extra effort. If you were to put, whether it's an engagement split or a decision split or anything along those lines inside, it had introduced some additional complexity to the situation where we would have to rejoin all of those paths back. As far as not being able to use an engagement split after Path Optimizer, it's kind of difficult to say. Like, it would require quite a bit of rework of engagement split itself, because of the fact that if you say, I want to measure against this email, well, that email might end up being on a losing path. And then as soon as the winner is chosen, that email is no longer relevant. So then you're really not measuring an email that is getting traffic anymore. But in order to say, okay, well, give me the email on the winning path, that itself is a whole different level of complexity. So to be able to use engagement split to look back at emails within the Path Optimizer only on the winning path after the test is run, again, pretty complex in terms of the logic there. So at this point, that's not something that we're going to be able to offer, but it's not that out of the realm of possibility for the future. Bill, I see that you're kind of going into this. I think you want to kind of talk about how to do a simple A/B test and subject lines, right? I think that's what you're going to configure here.
Hey, sorry guys, I might have dropped out for a second there. So Rob, you may have been talking to me. I apologize.
That's okay. I was just saying, I think you're about ready to show like the configuration of maybe a subject line test, because that was one of the questions that came in.
Okay, great. So I was just trying to just kind of show some stuff in the background while you guys were talking. So I can just say subject 1 here. So you just try to mock this up real quick. Okay, so I did try to show a couple of things. I tried to show how easy it was to kind of expand into these different paths. I started off by setting up path 1, copying and pasting onto path 2. Then in my kind of hypothetical demo I was trying to show, I decided that a third path would have been great, so I could easily have gone in and added another path while I'm kind of in this kind of very creative mode where I'm trying to come up with the idea for this test. So I was able to easily kind of come in here and just add like a whole new one. Also, so for this scenario that we were just talking about this subject line test, so now I've selected this email, and I now want this email on all of these paths, but I want to vary the subject line. So another way I can just quickly do this is, let me just copy this email here, and I'll just get rid of this one. So now I can just come in here and modify the subject line. So now I'll just say, of course, this is subject line 2, and say done. And now I could also just bring this one over again, get rid of this one, and maybe make the subject line 3. Oh, sorry, subject line 3. So, very straightforward, very quickly, I was able to set up a subject line test of 3 different subjects versus each other. Now, of course, what you're seeing now is this test now contains a subject line test and a weight duration test. So you can see how quickly you can kind of raise the complexity of all these different variants, and that would be what we would consider like a multivariate test at that point. You're testing duration on your path and subject lines. Of course, you could then do a next round of these emails over here where you could swap out content, hero images, or what have you. Rob, do you see any other questions that would be good to answer while showing the canvas? I think I saw one earlier about seeing a test that has completed and the paths. Rob, I'm not sure if you happen to know a good journey.
Yep. We should have that in this environment. Look at the Path Optimizer demo running. So after a test is run, this actually will answer another question that we had about Einstein STO. So we actually set up a test here where we put a Path Optimizer out there, and then on path 1 we sent 2 emails, and on path 2 we sent 2 emails, but we, instead of a defined weight on path 2, we put an Einstein STO weight. Now this was mock data, so Einstein STO lost in this one, but sometimes it will lose. There may be cases where you're already getting the optimized time for most of your users, and maybe send time optimization doesn't have enough data to pick the right person. But you can see that the quantity of contacts we put down this was not enough to actually raise the STO activity to be significant. But we actually had several of our pilot customers who use this feature actually find that STO usually was in the lead. But this allows you to be able to test that that kind of machine learning versus manual definition of weights. And this is what it looks like once the winner's chosen, right? So the losing path is a dotted line, the winning path is a solid line. So you can see that visually represented here, which path is continuing to take people down the flow and which is not. So if you click the Path Optimizer activity, then you'll also see those post-test analytics. So when that loads, again, this is mock data, and we haven't injected anything post-test, but you can see the two different sections there. And again, a reminder: while the test is running, you don't see the post-test performance section. You only see test summary, and that is real-time data. So like as soon as we get data, it's fairly like every 5 minutes or something like that. So that's refreshing and refreshing and refreshing. So you're getting those stats updated. But as soon as that winner is chosen, that becomes a snapshot and frozen in time. So then you can always reference back what happened during my test. And then that post-test performance is, now I see what's happening post-test. It's going up, great, awesome, things are wonderful. Or in that example I showed, open rate dropped dramatically. Something is no longer relevant. I need to run another test. So you'd create a new version and create a new test. Another
and Rob,
question.
Oh, yeah, chime in. I do think there was a question that was semi-related to this, which was just kind of, and maybe it's a compare and contrast versus our random split. But random split today, of course, a lot of customers kind of used it to do something very similar to this. But I guess one of the main advantages of this purpose-built feature is that a random split, once you've determined the winner, you would then have to create a new draft and remove the other paths on the random split, and thereby creating this basically solid line. So basically just to get to the winner, and basically canceling out the tested non-winning paths, you would have to create a new draft. And with the Path Optimizer, you can choose the winner and get rid of all of the losing paths with the same journey version, right? So you don't need to create a new draft. The only time you need to create a new draft is when you want to add a new test or change the overall shape of the journey. So again, that's kind of a value of the overall feature versus random split. I wanted to make sure that that was kind of clear on that, the differences there.
I'm actually answering one question just in the Q&A window, but let's see what else we've got. Engagement splits. Where is the duration for Path Optimizer? So the duration here, you can see in the analytics screen, the test duration is visible here. So again, as I talked about, the sum of your engagement period and the longest wait, then that's my test duration. So like that's what you would always see here is how long it was. So this it was, yeah, we had a 2-hour wait, so that obviously didn't add much to that test duration time, but you can also see the duration that has elapsed since the test was complete. So you can say it's been a month since the time the winner was chosen. So you can actually know how long that's been and how long you tested. Time. So this is a good question. So if you did in Bill's example that he was building a minute ago, where you're testing both subject line and wait time, how do you know which is really responsible for the increase in your engagement? You don't necessarily have that ability today to know which attribute is leading to that. But that is part of why we're trying to build in statistical significance, because the machine learning algorithms start looking at the different, start looking at all those different pieces behind the scenes. So once we get into that, there will be some sophisticated logic in the background that'll actually start looking at attribution.
And Rob, just also add some more there is you can also, by process kind of elimination, right? So you can add more paths and more variants, and then that way, yep. For example, if you had subject line 1 and you wanted to have if you wanted to test 3 subjects and you wanted to test 3 wait durations, you can actually just make a path that represents every variant, and then that way you would definitely know which attributes are causing the increase or decrease. So you can have subject line 1 in 3 days, subject line 1 in 5 days, subject line 1 in 1 day, and then kind of rinse and repeat for all of those, which is why we allow up to 10 paths, so you can kind of map out all these variants. Now, most certainly you can get to a level where things are so complex that you can't compare apples to oranges, and that's why we would recommend doing just more and more tests, and that way you kind of increase that overall body of knowledge where you kind of start to learn what's causing the winner or the loser.
Yep. Hey, Bill, can you click the drop down that says analytics and go back to the configuration of the activity? We have a question about how to quickly see at a glance which subject line won. So you can't see it in, on directly within the activity, but we do have the ability to have an activity description here. So you can actually input kind of what you're testing. So maybe it's just a quick subject line test, A/B subject line test, and you want to put your 2 subject lines in here. And activity description, you might put, this is subject line 1, this is subject line 2, so that when you see that subject line 2 is the winner, then you know that. You can also change the name of the activity on the canvas. Regardless of what the email title is, you can actually edit that, like underneath the email activity, you can just click that and edit that. So if you wanted to see what is my actual subject line that won, you can just update that activity name there and you say, oh yeah, my subject line was act today, and that's the one that won. So there are various ways to kind of solve for that. Size of a sample test. Try to answer that one. Journey run completed. Subscriber list, winning path. So this is a good question. After a journey is completed or the test is completed, how can we view or extract a subscriber list from the winning path to do on another journey? So kind of in that sophisticated use case example where we have the Tableau use case, I also said, hey, envision that you're using an update contact activity instead, or maybe you want to put it on there also. All you need to do is drop an update activity or update contact activity rather on the path, and then that writes just a quick flag to a data extension. There you go. Quick flag to a data extension that says this contact processed down path 1. Path 1 was the winner, so you go query that data extension for I went down path 1, that's the winner, and then I'm going to use that now as my audience for another journey. So it's customers use that even not using Path Optimizer today in other types of splits to say that they've gone down certain paths. Total path waiting time, monitoring time. Yep. To clarify. So to clarify, if you do not select a holdback amount, the entire audience is split accordingly and sent down the paths and get test results just as a split test rather than A/B holdout test. So that's correct. So if you don't use the holdback option, if you're constantly sending people through, it's the activity is just going to look at your split and it's going to send everyone based on the distribution that you have across your paths through the test. There would be no one held back until the winner. But then as soon as the winner's chosen, any contacts that flow through after that only go down the winning path, right? So then essentially we just change the distribution in the background to be winning path gets 100% and all other paths get 0. If I put a 2-day wait on path 1 and a 1-day wait on path 2 with 2 days of monitor engagement period, will path 1 consider 1 day less of monitor engagement? No. So we again take the longest possible path. So in this example, we have 1-day wait on path 1, 2-day wait on path 2. We look at engagement period. So if that engagement period is 2 days, we add that to the longest path, which is also 2 days. So our test time is 4 days no matter what. We will wait 4 days from the time the first person enters the Path Optimizer test to pick the winner. Okay, we're still getting questions. I want to make sure that we're addressing as many as we can here. Sorry, I'm going up to the top because I know I skipped a few. Oh, so one of the questions was, what if there's a tie? So if you choose clicks and you have a tie, what happens? Well, technically, I mean, we have accounted for it. Technically, we will take the first path that we find that has the highest rate. But really, like, even though it's a percentage and we show like in this example, in the slides, I had 19.7%. Well, it's really, we calculate that with way more digits than that. The actual likelihood of being a true tie, meaning that, you had exactly 100,000 people down each path and exactly, 20,000 people on each path clicked. I mean, the likelihood of that is almost none. So you're always pretty much going to have a winner, a clear winner. But if the one in a billion chance is that you actually get a result which is a tie, or maybe your volume is just super low and you have 10 people that flow through, then yeah, that's certainly possible. Then at that case, then at that time, it would pick the first path that it finds with the highest percent.
Hey, Rob, I see one here about if this feature works with single send journeys. And I guess what I wanted to highlight is that a single send journey is really intended to be one audience to one email. Now, you can most certainly set up that same scenario here by using a workflow-based journey. And let me kind of just show you, and I realize how that might just seem like a little bit unstraightforward, but basically you can set up this scenario right here. And then now this is a single send journey. I mean, the use case is the same, a single send journey, but this contains now a subject line test, for example, in your question. So to be able to use Path Optimizer, you have to choose a workflow journey, but you can most certainly configure that workflow journey to achieve the use case of really a batch single send, but also then you can layer in this test.
Yep, good point. So I think we're going to have to answer some of these outside. Like I said, there are a few of them that I'm going to have to get answers to. So I think I've kind of walked through. I think we keep getting the question about tracking specific links. Again, it's just not out there right now. Bill's going to be listening to customer input and hearing what customers are asking for and figuring out how to make it happen. So, like I said, at this point, we can't say after the test, show me people that clicked on a specific link in one of the emails within the Path Optimizer test right now, and then treat those people differently. Now, it's not out there, but that's not to say that we can't do it in the future. We just got the feature out there, sort of to get started. So, like he said, we're not going to stop investing in this. There's a long roadmap for this. I think we see a lot of value in this, so we hope that you do too. Let's see if any new ones on here. Nothing new has come in the last couple of minutes, so if there are not any further questions, Bill, did you have anything else that you wanted to wrap up with?
No, I think this was great. Thanks for everyone's time.
This is Gilda. Definitely, this was a really good session. And what we'll do, and again, thank you everyone for joining us. We really appreciate you being here. We will send a recording to the webinar, and we did receive a lot of questions, and I'd really like for the team to kind of go through some of the questions, especially the ones that we didn't get a chance to answer. Especially the ones that we didn't get a chance to answer. I think there were some really, really good ones. Like I think I saw one about holdback audience. Like, is there a limit to what you can include in the volume? Of the audience? Like, is there a performance impact of high volume? I don't know if you guys want to answer that one. That one seems to be coming up a lot. But what I'd love for the team to do is if you can answer that one, great. And then last but not least, what I'd love for the team to do is kind of go through some of the ones. There are some really good ones that came in. Maybe we could create a document, answer the document, and send that document out along with the recording, or add it to the presentation.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, in terms of volume, Journey Builder has published guidance standards for volumes, and this applies the same way that it always does. So, we don't have any limit to the size of an audience that you bring in. Just understand the processing volume limits that we have kind of per hour. But as far as, if you have a holdback how many people can you put in there? There's no limit to how many people you can put in there. You know, if you want to hold back, what we have heard from customers when we were doing our research before we, when we were designing this feature, as well as from our pilot customers, a lot of times it's an 80-20 or a 90-10. So you want to hold back a significant portion of your audience to wait for the winner. And there's no limit to how many people you can hold there. So let's say that you put in 2 million, 3 million, 5 million people. It's still going to process the same kind of time, time constraints that we have in Journey Builder today. But if you're holding back 90% of a 2 million person audience, so you're holding back what 1.8 million people. There's no problem with that. We're going to hold those people until the winner is chosen, and then we'll start processing those immediately when the winner is chosen. So it may take a little bit of time to get those people through and get sent the emails, but everything is just as it is today with Journey Builder.
And then last but not least, this one I actually want to know the answer to, and then I think we could probably close it after this. Can we query against the activity name and pull custom reports around these activities?
Could you say it again? I'm sorry.
Can we query against the activity name and pull custom reports around these activities?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that.
I think they're trying to query against the backend data views. Sorry, guys, this is Jenna just jumping in to clarify that question. I think they're trying to query against the backend data views to get more engagement metrics from these activities.
Okay. I think we'll have to just follow back up on the answer to that one. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's available in those data views myself, so I apologize.
All right. No problem. I think, as I mentioned, there are lots of great questions here. And what I'd love to do is go through some of the questions, see if we could address it or maybe add it to the end of the slide deck. The recording will go out, should be in everyone's inbox by tomorrow. But thank you, everyone, for attending. This was really good. I know I learned a lot about Path Optimizer, and I'm looking forward to the roadmap for this feature. Thanks again, everyone, and be sure to join us next week. On Tuesday, we're going to have another deep dive into reply mail management. The meeting is posted on my LinkedIn profile, and it will be included in the follow-up email. Thanks again, and have a good day.
Yeah.
Thank you.